if this continues for another year or two, he's going to start getting frustrated. He's going to start getting frustrated when he knows how good he is, and he's measuring himself against the explosion of numbers from the Jamar Chases and the Justin Jeffersons and
John McMullen and Jody McDonald, your Mac Birds 365 guys. Hour number 2 on a Thursday edition. Check the football calendar. 5 weeks from today until the NFL draft. And we had my buddy and John's cohort, he's been down at the Eagle game since Glenny hosts the pregame show. Glenn McNair was here with us and asked him about the Eagles offseason, Hassan Reddick. I seem to be the most upbeat guy on Hassan Reddick's chances to continue to be a double-digit sack guy. Both Glenn and John have questions. They're not saying bad signing, but they're not as gung-ho as yours truly is. So the Eagles have not made too many free agent moves other than that. That was their big splash to this point. And Howie Roseman has gone about his business and redone some contracts and created some salary cap space by doing what they did with Fletcher Cox, releasing him, but then re-signing him pretty darn quickly by getting Boston Scott's deal done at less than I thought it should have been. By bringing back Anthony Harris, no one's doing handstands, but getting him done for less than he made the year before. Howie's done a nice job managing the cap and giving the Eagles options and cap flexibility. But you got to spend it on somebody. You got to upgrade somewhere. And to this point, they've upgraded at one place, that's edge pass rusher with Hassan Reddick. They still could use some upgrading in the secondary, Johnny Mac, because Steven Nelson's a free agent, has not been re-signed. Rodney McLeod, free agent at safety, has not been re-signed. Is cornerback or safety one of the places they will spend some of their extra cap money as of where we sit right now, on the fact that they do have some money to spend?
Yeah, I think they're going to sign both, to be honest. I think they're going to sign a safety and a corner. Now, for people getting excited, and I know Glenn mentioned Honey Badger, I think that all depends on, how much can he get elsewhere. If he comes down and we're in that 1 year category for significant money, 9-10 million, I think they'd consider it. But I don't think they're going to go multiple years with him. We talked about Steve Nelson a lot. He's out there again. He's not getting the money. For whatever reason, the NFL looks at Steve Nelson and says, it's a good player, but we're not going to pay. We're not going to give him multiple years. He's in that hamster wheel, 1 year deals, 1 year deals, 1 year deals. Look at what the Eagles just did with Anthony Harris. They go 1 year, $4 million, with incentives. Now they're down to 1 year, $2.5 million. They might get him back cheaper at the end of the day than they had him last year with Steve Nelson. If the market's not there, the market's not there. And at least he knows, similar to last year, that was the whole plan for Steve Nelson. The Eagles could guarantee a starting spot, so he knew he'd get the opportunity to play, prove himself, get back on the market, get back to where he believes he belongs. He did everything. He played well. He was a nice compliment to Darius Slay. He got to the market again. Market's not there. With corner, you got to be able to run, right? And he doesn't run a 4.4. So people are like, oh, I don't know. So maybe they get him back on the cheap, and all of a sudden it starts to look better and better and better. So they are going to make some moves. They are going to have some cost-effective signings. And another thing Glenn McNair said that's correct, and you and I have said it before, 2 years from now, you're going to see these big money contracts, and the vast majority are going to be disasters. That's just the way it always is. And by disasters, I mean not necessarily they're disasters as players, but they don't live up to expectations. Because if you're paid like a superstar, especially here in Philadelphia, but everywhere in the NFL, if you're paid like a star, people expect a star. And Christian Kirk is a good player. They don't want a good player. They want a star. You paid him like a star. I want to see a star. And things tend to go in a negative direction. You either cut the guy, renegotiate, whatever. You're going to see that over and over again. And the smarter teams, and hopefully the Eagles are in that category, wait for everything to settle down and then target the good deals for good money. So they'll be able to get a little bit better, but they're not going to make a splash at this stage.
The splashing is over and done with, and they had a major splash yesterday in the NFL. And here's a guy who kind of falls into the category you just mentioned. But the smart NFL mind gets it and understands it ahead of time. They're just looking to impress the casual fans out there when they announced Tyreek Hill's contract as a 4-year, $120 million deal. That's $30 million a season. That's quarterback money, which wide receivers have gotten damn close. But
bad quarterback money.
Yeah, mediocre quarterback money.
Yeah.
It's not really a 4-year, $120.
No.
Never going to see the fourth year of that deal.
No.
Read inside the lines a little bit, and you'll see it's a $373 to $75 million deal, which is, hey, almost $25 million a year. Where do I sign up for that? Thank you very much, Tyreek Hill. But it's not quite 30, and that's a pretty good difference. If you're talking about average salary per year, the difference between 25 and 30 is a little bit of a chunk of change. That's a nice little percentage on your overall salary cap. Yeah, the Eagles should have been involved in that. I'm sorry. And
everybody should be involved in that. But, I mean, we're in the player empowerment era. I don't, it's not like the NBA. It's not at that level. But players have been able to direct where they want to go. More and more players, not every player, obviously, but more and more players have been able to direct where they want to go. Now, in Hill's case, he didn't have a no trade clause like Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, but he did have contract demands that essentially served as one. And he could steer it in a certain direction. And that's what he did. And, for whatever reason, the Rams gave Robert Woods the opportunity to pick his destiny. I don't know why. Maybe they're just thanking him.
I can tell you why. F those draft picks.
Well,
they don't care about they don't care about what they're getting back in return because they don't care about the draft at all.
Maybe. And I think part of it is they wanted to give him a hat tip, so to speak, at least out the door because they have a lot of respect for him. It's a little bit different in the modern NFL. Guys are picking where they want to go. And, we've been talking about it a lot. And Glenn also brought that up. I mean, it is. Wide receiver is the most selfish position. I mean, that's all they think about. How many times am I going to touch the ball?
Sure.
In a lot of ways, Devonta Smith is unique. And but you got to start worrying about this. You mentioned it on yesterday's show, Jody. If this continues for another year or two, he's going to start getting frustrated. He's going to start getting frustrated when he knows how good he is. And he's measuring himself against the explosion of numbers from the Jamar Chases and the Justin Jeffersons and the guys who put up these huge numbers early in their careers. He's going to start thinking about it. It's the nature of the position.
And here's another thing that scares me a little bit. And I wanted to see if Glenn would take a hardline stance. He didn't. I don't know if anybody is just now. If we're going to pay a price as a running team, you've laid it out there a couple times over the last few days here this week on Birds 365, that when a wide receiver has either a definitive say, like a no-trade clause, or a kind of de facto say, like Tyreek Hill did yesterday, If you're going to acquire him, you're going to want him to get him locked up for another couple of years. And he knows who he wants to sign with. He knows what dollar number he wants to sign with, but he also knows who he wants to commit with. And if the Eagles are coming up short in these categories, players don't want to come here either via trade and or free agency because they just don't see how their numbers are going to continue to stay and or escalate with the Eagles offense as it is right now, which means the Eagles are looked at as a running team. And those are just the fact, Jack, for the last 9 games of last season. And they won enough to get into the playoffs. Yet we don't have a superstar running back. When you tell me Tennessee's a running team, I can tell you why, because they've got the best running back in the National Football League, bar none. Sorry to our buddy from Salem, New Jersey, out there in Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor, who had the best season last year. But if you're just looking at their career over the last several years and projecting who's going to have the biggest year, banking on health for both players, I think you still got to put Henry number one. The Eagles running backs are Pete, Sam, and Tom. They don't have a...
Well, Miles is a little bit. Call Miles. It's Miles, Sam, and Tom.
Percentage chance the Eagles extend Miles Sanders this
offseason. I'm not going to
give me a number.
4%.
4%. Guess what? That makes him Tom, Peter, Harry. It doesn't make him Miles.
It's interesting.
He's got a 4% chance to get a contract extension on the final year of his deal. You get my point.
Yeah,
they do not have. I'm the one. Derrick Henry here. There's no top running back here in town.
I'm actually the one who's been saying it for years. I've gotten killed for years for calling him out. For whatever reason, Eagles fans latch on to certain people and think they're better than they are. And that's been Miles Sanders for years since he got here, basically. They think he's better than he is. But I will say he's not a bad player on that stretch of the imagination either. But you're right. Yeah, there's virtually no chance they're going to extend him for a couple reasons. One, he's hurt too much, fumbles too much, ball security is an issue, pass protection still an issue, pass receiving still an issue. He hasn't improved. And they don't value the position is part of it as well. So,
right.
Yeah, you're right. He's overrated by the fan base, but he's not a bad player. That's all I was trying to say.
Right, and I'm maybe one of those who actually think more highly than Miles Sanders than most, because I think I would at least.
Yeah, we kind of turned. We kind of turned on each other there. We took opposite.
I would explore a potential contract extension with Miles Sanders, but I was more referencing what the Eagles seem to do in evaluation of players and talents and positions. If you're going to go, well, we can plug in anybody at running back. Why would we overpay for anybody when we plug anybody in? Well, maybe they have that same attitude toward wide receivers. We can plug in Zach Pascal. We can plug in anybody in there. No, there are levels of players. There are star players. There are already achieved superstar status players, and you bank on them continuing to do so. I just think it's funny that certain individuals, fans, media, guys like us, have different ways that we look at different positions because, you and I are both calling him on the carpet for Zach Pascal. Nobody's excited. If he's part of the mix, that's not doing enough. Why are guys like Devonta Adams and Tyreek Hill being traded? If they got on their teams and they never moved and they were superstar, all-pro, first team, year after year after year, and they were there for a decade, you go, well, the Eagles never had a chance to get a guy like that. Maybe they passed on him in the draft, but they were never in a position to go ahead and get him. 2 of the 3, Cooper Kupp would be the 3. Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp. There's your 3 best wide receivers in the National Football League. 2 of the 3 changed teams this offseason. And the Eagles were, as John McMillan noted, maybe the 31st most talented wide receiver room last year, ahead of only Detroit. How can 2 of those 3 players change teams and the Eagles not be involved in either one?
Yeah. We're not ready. We're not ready, Jody. We're not ready. The we're not ready crowd. Look, the Eagles, there is, and I say this for most times I agree with the Eagles. Discipline is better than the alternative. And they're way too disciplined to get involved with the numbers of Devonta Adams and Tyreek Hill. as good. They're not going to get involved with that. Those top of the line contracts, even as good as those players are, they're not going to get involved. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think star players are star players. If you get a star player, go get a star player. That's where I am personally. They're never going to be in the conversation. At least this regime is never going to be in the conversation for players like that typically, other than quarterback. If they ever found the right quarterback, they might go a little crazy, because for obvious reasons, as every team in the NFL basically would. So I don't think they would ever get involved with those types of wide receivers, with those types of numbers. And I've argued maybe they're a little bit too disciplined at times. Right now, and I called it the Jacksonville tax with Glenn. That's what people around the league talk about it, because they're regarded as a really bad organization and they have to overpay to get people to play there right now. Hopefully that changes and you no longer have to pay that. For that particular position at this particular time, the Eagles got to pay a premium. They got to pay extra if they want to get involved, but they don't want to get involved with Tyreek Hill and Devonta Adams. But they do want to get involved with the Robert Woodses of the world, who's still a significant upgrade, would be a great fit for this team, a great fit. They want to be involved with players like that. Now, he's a trade, so it's a little bit different. But free agency, we talked about Allen Robinson. I wouldn't have overpaid Christian Kirk. If I had a chance to overpay Allen Robinson a little bit to get him here, I would have done it. And I don't know if they did or they didn't, but I know they wouldn't do it. I would have done it. I know I got to pay a premium for that player to get him to come here over Los Angeles. I'll do it because I have to do it right now. And hopefully that changes if he succeeds. But guess what? It's not going to change, Jody, if you're throwing out Zach Pascal. Not going to change. Not going to change. You don't have to pay Zach Pascal a premium.
No.
You got to pay Jack. You got to, Howie Roseman basically paid Zach Pascal going through his pockets for extra change. That's where they're playing right now. And they're trying to spin, this guy's an upgrade. This guy's an upgrade. You just spent $1.5 million as an upgrade when Tyreek Hill's getting $75 million guaranteed and Devonta Adams is getting in that range as well. You're in the center console of your car trying to scrummage up change to pay for this guy. And you're saying it's an upgrade because your other receivers are so bad.
Well, they don't even have to scrummage up change because they've got cap space. The things that Howie does well, and that's one of the borderline tenets of Birds 365 day in and day out, is we analyze the general manager, specifically during the offseason when we can't watch players play and make plays and second guess the coach. The whole offseason is what the hell's Howie doing and how do we judge it? I give Howie credit for his ability to create cap space by doing deals and judging players and projecting what they get on the open market and then be able to get them re-signed. And he's dynamite at it. He's as good as any other general manager in the league. Hopefully, and I think Glenn McNow would second this emotion. I think Howie is very good at playing the draft day game, moving up, moving down, evaluating picks, seeing where a team's got a need, being able to suck them in, get a little extra value, being able to trade up when necessary, not blatantly overpay to go target a player. I think Howie's really good at that. I think he showed that during his tenure as the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. But actually be able to figure out what skills a wide receiver needs to have, be it entering the league as a rookie player, a young player, an established player, a free agency aged player. They're all different levels of players, and you need to affix evaluations to them differently. To me, the Eagles are pretty much a failure across the board. I guess you got to give them some credit because they took Devonta Smith. I think everybody and his brother knew Devonta Smith was going to be good. He certainly didn't wow or surprise me because I had been talking Devonta up since his freshman year at Alabama, but they had to get in position to take him. That's it. over the last however many years that they have a
I'm
wide
not
receiver.
going to go that far.
Oh, I am.
I think last year's draft is and again, it's a small sample size, but I think it's shaping up pretty well for the Eagles, especially at the top, as you mentioned with Devontae. Obviously, is and I don't even give him that much credit for Devontae because I think Devontae is, you know, I was arguing with Mike Kay yesterday, our buddy, and he's like, I said, they got to develop younger receivers. That's what they're here for. And he said, what about Devonta Smith? I said, God, Devonta Smith, and maybe some Nick Saban. He was a ready-made product when he stepped into Philadelphia. The first day I saw that kid, I said, well, this is different because I hadn't seen a receiver in years. He was so much better than everybody else. The first day, when you compared him to everybody else the Eagles have. But remember, they also got Landon Dickerson in the second round, who looks like he's going to be a star, and Milton Williams in the third round, who, I think people are skipping steps, but he's got a real good opportunity to be a solid player in this league. And then you go down to the fifth round, and Kenny Gainwell, I think he's got a lot of promise and a lot of potential. And even if Zach McPherson as a fourth round pick, no guarantees, but he could at least develop into an NFL player. So I think the early signs on last year's draft are pretty good at this stage. I don't think it's outrageous to say that.
Right, but I was talking about just the receiver position, not the rest
of
last year's draft.
Yeah, the receiver position. Then you go. I mean, if you want to go back, obviously you got to go back to Jalen Reagor. You got to go back to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, which is a disaster. And people bring up Quez Watkins and say, well, there's a hit as a 6th round pick. And I agree with that. That's a hit as a 6th round pick.
But he should be a 3 who they're dressing up as a 2 right now.
Honestly, he should be a 4. That's where I am. I'm going to be blunt about it. He should be a 4. And now a 4 with some upside, maybe if he continues to develop, he develops into a 3. But again, if you look at some of the other teams around this league, Jody, man, I mean, forget about Dallas last year. I mean, Dallas last year was Lamb, Cooper, Gallup before the injury. And then they just put Cedric Wilson in there. I mean, those are your top tier teams. That's the kind of talent they have. What is Miami going to roll out there? You just mentioned with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Cedric Wilson, and they still have Devontae Parker right now. They're probably going to obviously move on. But I mean, it's unbelievable to me that people look at Quez Watkins as being the wide receiver 2 and think, oh, that's okay. No, it's not okay. So I can't even get to Jalen Reagor and Zach Pascal. It's not. Wide receiver 2 is not okay. Remotely.
Let me ask you about, and we got to get a break in here. We still got 2 breaks to go. 2, correct me if I'm wrong, former teammates. I think they were both with the Dolphins, at least for 1 year, if not 2. Wide receivers who, if you had a choice, different costs, very similar stages of their careers. And I do believe they were, I could look this up, but I should know it off the top of my head. I think they were Dolphin teammates. If I gave you the choice of these 2, John, Devontae Parker cost you a 4th round pick. I'm guessing here because I think it's going to get upwards of a 4 because I think there are going to be several teams that are going to jump in and bid for him. So I don't think you're going to be able to get him for a 6. Robert Woods is a better player, but the Rams were desperate to move him, and they were so motivated to do the right thing that they allowed him to kind of dictate where he went. So he ends up going for a 6. So I know comparing Devontae Parker to Robert Woods, you go, wait. How did he go for a 6 and Devontae Parker go for a 4? Here's the reason why I'm coming up with a 4. I think there are going to be a couple teams involved. And I don't think the Dolphins are going to say, oh, yeah, Devontae, please pick wherever you want to go. No, they're going to say, we just gave up how many picks for Tyreek Hill? We need to get as good a pick back as possible in exchange. So let's say the cost for Devontae Parker is a 4th-round pick. If the Eagles are interested, he's making 5 and change each of the next 2 years. Very salary-friendly deal for a guy like Devontae Parker. Or you can sign Jarvis Landry. Let's say Landry signs, and if you want to adjust this, please feel free, a 1-year deal, 9 or 10. I don't know that he's not getting 15. That's for damn sure. I think he's going to make more than Devontae Parker. So I'll slot him in on a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal if you want to go down that road. But if it's a 2-year deal, then you're probably going to have to tie a little guaranteed money to the 2nd year, which is going to make it difficult to cut him if you're the Eagles. 1-year deal, $9 million, 2-year deal. Let's call it the same thing, 18, but $2 million guaranteed in the 2nd year. Which would you think the Eagles would be better advised to go out and get? Give up a draft pick, but get a better cap-related player like a Devonta Smith, or get aggressive, go out and get Jarvis Landry, pay him good money, pretty good money to come in here and play for the Birds. Which wide receiver upgrade interests you more?
Well, interests me personally. I think Landry's a better player. You could argue what do the Eagles need more? The true X receiver, that would be Parker, the slot receiver. Then you can move Watkins outside. So you could work it both ways. But I just think Landry's still a better player. I think he's a better receiver. So if I can get him on 1 year, that would be the way I would go. I'd question 2 years, but if you can get him on 1 year, I think it would be a nice signing. I think he's a good player. But we're back to where we were. If I'm the Eagles, I'm going after Parker because it's a trade, and in theory, he's not going to have a question. Landry's going to go where he can get targets, like we talked about with Glenn.
But the hypothetical question I brought, we're past that. We're to the point where Jarvis Landry says, okay, I'll sign with the Eagles. Because if he doesn't say, okay, sign with the Eagles, he's not going to sign with the Eagles.
Yeah.
So you have to start with the assumption
that's
that the Eagles deal is good enough for him to sign.
Yeah, I don't think Landry's realistic. So if I'm the Eagles, that's why I said, if I'm the Eagles, I'd go after Parker because you don't have to worry about that in theory. Now, if he's a jerk, I don't know him personally. Guys can make an issue. And, I don't want to downplay Zach Pascal's leadership abilities and everything that Nick Sirianni talks about, because those types of things are real. And the last thing you want is somebody coming in and blowing up the locker room because he's not happy, especially with young guys, especially Devontae's still very young. Quez is still very young. You don't want that. So, I mean, there's a lot of intangibles, but just if I'm the Eagles, I don't have to worry about it. If I trade for somebody, they got to come in, but you got to do your due diligence on the other. Is he going to be happy? Is he going to blow up the room and that kind of stuff? But if you're asking me who the better player is, I'd rather have Landry.
Right. That's why. Sorry, because the Eagles have been burned a couple times in the last few weeks of good wide receivers ending up somewhere else other than Philadelphia. Yeah, I want the guy. I want the player. I want the better player. I'm not worried about the contract. I'm not worried about the fit. Give me the talented player. And I'm with you. I like Jarvis Landry. I don't dislike Parker, but I think he is I think they're both descending and declining players, but I think Parker's is a little bit of a sharper drop than Jarvis Landry as of right now. All right, Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. We'll come back. Got a couple more.